All right, y'all, what's going on? It's your boy Juan coming at you with a brand new video. Today we're going to be comparing two very similar cars, but with very different setups. So identically, they're two 2016 340 Xis, and the difference is that one has a full frame top mount, matched with a six-speed manual, and the one on your right has a hybrid turbo on an automatic. So the reason I'm making this video is because a lot of people go on the forums and they ask, "Hey, Juan," or just generally they ask, "Hey, what's a better transmission? What should I get? Six-speed manual, or should I get an automatic? What's a better turbo setup? Bottom mount, full frame, hybrid setup, or a top mount?" So I'm hoping that this video will help a lot of you guys get some of the answers that you've been looking for, especially with in regards to which transmission to go with. So on your left, looking at this six-speed manual, a lot of the good things that go on with the manual is that, of course, you get more driver engagement, right? Feel great when you're shifting through the gears. When you're taking off at a light and you're shifting, you're hearing the exhaust go down, go up. So a lot more driver engagement. Kind of feels more like you're an actual enthusiast in a manual vehicle that responds to you the way you want, right? And then the pros, that's the pros with that. And then the cons with that is that, of course, you have an extra pedal, you got to spend more time shifting. The shift speeds are definitely slower than an automatic, as we all know. But a big con is that these manual transmissions are nowhere near as strong as our last generation in the N54. I kind of like the skid board, the N55. I'm not a big fan of them. Kind of like to forget that time. So ideally, I just always compare N54 to B58. And the manual transmissions in the B58 were very stout. They're very strong. I've seen people run upwards of 800. I've ran 700s with them. I think they're rated for about 1,000 horsepower, which is great because once you find out how much this is going to be rated for, you're going to pretty much be upset. This manual transmission has been seen to blow up right around 650 wheel torque, mainly and probably this main cause that I've seen in every single time is a hard shift from second to third at full power over 650 wheel torque. Running this one right about 700 horsepower, and it does pretty good as far as I haven't had any issues. But I mainly go from third to fourth to fifth and sixth. Not big into the first to second because I think those are super bad destroyers of transmissions, especially that second, third shift at high power. I'd also like a vary on your turbo setup. I was telling somebody that with a full frame top mount, you don't have as much torque down low. So that could help a lot with shifting, right, and not destroying the transmission. So ideally, I've seen even the last generation, I've seen that top mounts full frame with the lower torque actually is healthier for an engine than a high torque, um, bottom mount or stock location hybrid with a lot of torque. So that's something to always consider is, hey, do I want to kind of preserve my car for longer by not having as much torque down low and kind of limiting the possibility of bending a rod or producing too much heat down low for the engine. So that's just one of those factors that you consider. So just kind of getting back into the topic that we were talking about is the manual in here. It's a great transmission. Like I said, it's got a clutch delay valve, which will make you, if you're not used to it, it will kind of make you feel like, hey, what's going on with my power? Every time you shift, you're dropping a lot of psi, and that just kind of goes with the fact that there's a clutch delay valve in there, and you can't really bypass that. I mean, now they've got a no lift shift, and you can set that up over 5,000 RPM to just basically roll through the gears, similar to what those older GTIs, Audis, and stuff would do. And the MK4, that's the ones I've mainly dealt with. There could be other ones that have that same thing, but that should help a bit getting over that issue. But overall, it's pretty annoying. So that and the low power that you can make out of them without that will basically blow up your transmission if you go anything over it and you do the wrong shift. It's kind of scary. So then let's go ahead and compare the automatic. So the automatic, although it has its cons, fast shifting, no extra pedal, you're able to just fly through the gears. Great dig racing car. The issue that it has is also power. So there's now been a transmission tune by XHP, or you can even get a custom tune to increase the line pressures on them to be able to hold more, what would be called, I guess, more torque, more power. But still, every transmission has its limits, and I'm seeing very similar to the kind of manual transmission is that they look to be holding right about 650 wheel torque. I think once you're going about 700, even with the transmission tune, you're seeing issues, mainly higher end slipping. I think lower gears seem to be fine if everything that I've researched and heard. So a lot of, then that goes into another positive thing is you can see there's a positive or negative, but there's transmission upgrades. With these guys, you can go to a stage two, or yeah, you can go to a pure solution stage one, stage two, and I think now there's even a stage three if you really want some power. And unfortunately, with the manual transmissions, there's not a single upgrade. So currently, I'm in the research of kind of figuring out if there's any transmission that can be swapped in, any adapters that can be made to fit in a newer or a better transmission to the car. Hell, shit, I even retrofit an M54 transmission if I could. But of course, all that stuff is going to take time and years of development, with probably by somebody who has more knowledge about them than I do. But as of right now, there is no upgrades to the manual transmission. So if you guys really want big power, want to get, be a big monster, definitely go with the automatic, and ideally look for an upgraded transmission for that. Yeah, guys. So hopefully that should answer a lot of the questions that you guys may have about either an automatic or manual transmission. And just to sum it up, you're gonna definitely see issues with both at certain power levels. Like I said, 650 is kind of that mark for both. Uh, some people get luckier, some people get unluckier with lower power. So that's just something to consider. Next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to go ahead and talk about these turbos, right? So there's currently three options, right? You can get a full frame bottom mount, you can get a full frame top mount, or you can go with an upgraded hybrid. Hybrid being a stock location, stock frame, just bigger wheels to just kind of make more power up top. And of course, top mount just being generally your big top mount uh, eyesore turbo that everybody looks at and loves, and that's the way I like to go with, just because when I want somebody, when somebody pops my hood or I pop my hood, I want to make sure that they see what we're working with, right? So a lot of people are like, hey, I like bottom mount, more stealthy. Yep, that might be a preference for you. You might be one of those guys that races, and somebody that doesn't know really big upgraded hybrid like an ultra flow or a big boost bottom mount, somebody might be like, hey, this guy's running stock turbo, and then come to find out they're getting dragged down the highway. So for me, the benefits that I see in the hybrid stock frame or stock location hybrids is that you're seeing really good low end torque. You're almost getting OEM feel as far as the car goes. Maybe 100 RPM, a little bit more delay, just for the bigger wheels, but maybe not even that. So great turbo if you just want more power, you want to kind of feel OEM, you want to get it done. Now the big boost, or not big boost, but full frame bottom mounts that a lot of people are using, I'm seeing that they have great throttle response. Um, of course, more delay on the boost, but being so close to the actual engine, and the runners being so short, it's great response. Great response, no, not too much lag. I've been in one car like that, and wow, man, I mean, things spool super quick. So not a big difference from a hybrid. And then now you got your top mount, full frame kits. Now these guys, of course, have longer runners. They're farther from the engine, so of course expect a bit more lag, which is common. But for me, I always see a positive in, hey, lower end torque always destroys engines. It's one of the biggest factors for why twin turbo N54s always had really bad issues, right? Because so much heat so close to the engine and so much torque down low was always an issue. And you'll always see guys with a big top mount making great power up top, low, not so much low end torque, but you never saw these guys really have any bent rods or issues like that because you kept that power band so high up that it was way easier on the engine than it would be with the you know faster spooling stock location turbo, right? Or twin turbos, which produce a lot of torque. So for me, I like longevity. I like the high end torque. I've always been a roll racing kind of guy. Never really like dig racing. Mainly not, probably because I suck at it, but mainly because it's just so hard on your car. It's just one of those things that, like, hey, you do 3 or 4 launches, you're gonna bend the drive shaft, you're gonna throw an axle, you're gonna maybe crash, right? But it's just different things. But in my opinion, I'm big on the roll racing, so I do like the bigger turbos, the top mounts. And another positive thing about having a top mount, such as the car on your left, is that it's easier to work on. If you one of those guys that likes to set up different turbos for different things, higher horsepower, you want a dyno, top mount is always going to give you an ease of access to be able to take that turbo off and put it back on super quickly. Now, there's guys that can do a hybrid turbo in an hour, take it out, put it in. But then at that point, you're taking off the manifold, you're compromising the exhaust gasket. There's a lot more little screws you gotta get to do all of that. So if you're one of those guys that likes to switch it up, switch your setup up, or switch your setup and run different turbos, or maintenance your turbo, have it rebuilt, I mean, this is a no-brainer. So that kind of leads to that as far as the turbo differences. If there's anything that I missed or anything you guys want to know about, please drop a comment below. But like I said, I'm gonna sum it up by saying, both cars are phenomenal. Both turbo setups, have like pros and cons. Things you like, things you don't like, and that's in every setup, right? Even the manual transmission, the automatic, things you like, things you don't like. There's upgrades, there's not upgrades. You feel more connected to the car with a manual. You feel faster shifts in automatic. So, it's really hard to go wrong with these vehicles and how engineered they are and how great they are at being user friendly. And just putting down the power. So uh, it's when you go to do your research on what you want, just kind of weigh all the options out and just see what's best for me, or what am I going to be happier with long term. So that kind of wraps up my video on this turbo versus engine versus top mount discussion. If you guys have any more comments, just go ahead and leave me a question in the comments, or hit me up on Juan's Cars on IG. Besides that, happy hunting, and hope you guys find the best car for you.